Sports Nation, what up? Buff Nation, what up? BWB, my bandwagon buffs. What it is, what it does, and what it's gonna be. It's your man's Harry Billion. Welcome to the Liberian Perspective. Selective outrage. We gotta talk about that tonight. I take a break from my Colorado buffs, my Coach Prime Deion Sanders coverage tonight to talk about selective outrage in our community. First, I need you to please smash that subscribe button. Make sure to give me the thumbs up and look right here. I got Coach Prime and Buff merch at my Amazon storefront. And if you look right here, you can contact me. If you see something, say something. You got a story idea, an article, YouTube video you want to throw my way, you can share with me either on Instagram or Twitter at TLP Sports Club. And if Instagram and Twitter don't work for you, you can email it. Hot tips for tlpsports@gmail.com. Family, that's all the business I got. You know what time it is. Let's work. I'm starting this conversation by drawing a line. I'm drawing a line right here. Boom. Let's put a line right there. I'm drawing that line because I want to remind us about when Jesus drew the line in the sand. The religious leaders during the time where Jesus walked the earth. Salute Kanye West. Yes, Jesus did walk the earth. There was a time where they were trying to trap Jesus. They were doing all kinds of things to try to trap Jesus. And they had a case. They thought it was a slam dunk. They was like, oh, we got him now. Let's see what he says on this one. There was a young woman that was caught having extramarital affairs. She was caught in the act of adultery. So these religious leaders, in their attempt to trap Jesus, they bring the young lady to the square. I'm going to paraphrase this, guys. They said, hey, Jesus, we caught this young woman in the act of adultery. The law of Moses tells us that we need to stone this lady for her adulterous ways. What do you think we should do? The law that they were referring to was in Deuteronomy 22:22. And the law reads as follows. If a man is discovered committing adultery, both he and the woman must die. In this way, you will purge Israel of this evil. That was the law of Moses. So this is the thinking of the people during that time. If anybody commits adultery, they got to be put to death. Both people, because we do not need this kind of evil on us. We don't need that heat. This is the law that they're living by before Jesus arrives on this earth. So lock that in. They've been trying so many different ways to try to trap Jesus. To bring this woman before Jesus, they start licking their chops. They're like, oh man, we got him now. Moses told us we got to stone this lady. Oh yeah, we got him now. Let's see if he tells us the right thing. So they bring this lady and they're like, Jesus, we got this lady. We caught her in the act of adultery. And now we must kill her because we don't need this evil on us. And they said, okay, Rabbi, all right, teacher, leader, what says you? Jesus with his finger, he bent down and he wrote in the sand. Some people say he drew a line in the sand, but he wrote in the sand. And then he told the leaders this. You got to keep in mind that Jesus is very young, younger than me at the time. He only stayed on this earth for like 33 years. Jesus is a young man. He asked the religious leaders who were trying to trap him at that time. He said, which one of you here is without sin? The one who's here without sin shall throw the first stone. Then he bent back down and was scribbling again in the sand. After a few minutes, this is paraphrasing now for all you Bible scholars. Apparently it had gotten quiet. Jesus looks up. The young lady is probably standing there crying or doing whatever she's doing. She's scared for her life. Jesus looks up and he says, he looks at the young lady. He's like, young woman, where are all the religious men that were here accusing you? She, in her quivering voice, They left. They ran away. Jesus said, so nobody's here to condemn you? She said, nah, nobody's here. Nobody's here. Can you imagine what's going on in her mind at this point? Then Jesus says, okay, if nobody's going to condemn you, then I ain't going to condemn you either. And then he says, go ahead and leave your life of sin. He says, go ahead and sin no more. Girl, go change your way, basically. Stop doing that dirt. Leave that married man alone. So she runs off. She's relieved. She's in joy. She goes away, whether she did it or not. We don't know the story after that. This was a lesson that we all need to learn. I say all of this to say that none of us, you and myself, none of us have a righteous ground to stand on when it comes to a lot of these conversations that we get outraged about. The sports community, the whole world is up in arms right now with Caitlin and Reese. One plays for LSU, that's Reese. The other plays for Iowa, that's Caitlin. They're both women. They're both competitive. One is white, one is black. This is not about race. We're trying to divide and we're trying to conquer. There is a lot going on, a lot being said, things being thrown around. The prolific comedian Chris Rock told us about our selective outrage, but the message got lost on his response to Will Smith. I'm going to repeat that because I think somebody missed that. Chris Rock told us about our selective outrage, and for a couple of weeks, we focused on his response to Will Smith. We like to pick and choose what we respond to. We as a human race, we're more reactive than we are proactive. This is the reason why my channel exists. My channel exists because we are more reactive than we are proactive. If you're new to this channel, if you're watching me for the first time, on this channel I cover Deion Sanders, also known as Coach Prime. That's his preferred name. And I cover the Colorado Buffaloes football team. But the way that I got here, it was in reaction to a reaction. I'm going to share a perspective with you that I think is important that we pay attention to tonight. I think it's very important that we be more introspective. We got to look in the mirror tonight because the Kalen and Reese situation is much bigger than on the surface. I want to lay out the argument and then we can all decide. Hear me out. This is the Liberian perspective. I'm Liberian. This is my perspective. Because Chris Rock told us about our selective outrage. We skipped over the part where he was telling us about our selective outrage and we focused more on the selective outrage of one person. We really hate when things has to do with us. We hate when people point out our mistakes. Nobody on the face of God's green earth love for their mistakes or their sin to be called out. Not at all. We do not want to face ourselves at all. Nobody likes for anybody to call them out no matter what. But yes, we as a human race, we are more reactive than we are proactive. We react to things more so than we proactively try to do something about the thing that we are reacting about. Everybody reacted to Coach Prime leaving Jackson State. And I saw the outrage. I jumped in the conversation and here I am, Mr. Reaction. Reaction videos get a lot of views on social media. People love reaction videos. In this Coach Prime ecosystem, some content creators would take what Coach Prime and his sons are putting out. They would just react to it and they get a lot of views. We are reactive people, so we respond to reactions. Why it's like that? My friends, I don't have the answer to that question. Why is it that we are more reactive than we are proactive? I don't have the answer to that question. I want to lay out a perspective so that we can start thinking more in the right direction. However, it's going to help us to think in that right direction. Chris Rock, in his stand-up comedy, told us, he spoke to us directly, and he says that you guys, you and me, we are all reactionary people. We have selective outrage. We missed that whole part. We chuckled for a few minutes about the part where he pointed a mirror at us and told us that we had selective outrage, but we spent a whole week talking about the outrage that Will Smith had. Nobody likes for their sin to be called out. I don't like when you tell me that I'm no good. I don't like when you tell me that I'm doing something wrong because I like to be right for the most part, all the time. We have selective outrage. He told us that. We react to what we want to react to. We have outrage on certain things. Black kids get killed in black neighborhoods all the time. There are no picket lines. We're not having no marches. Nobody's giving no speeches. The second that a white cop kills a black person, oh, we're outraged. Things happen within our communities that we don't respond to. When it piques our interest, then we're ready to respond. We have selective outrage. It was a mirror that Chris Rock pointed at us, but we were too afraid to look into that mirror. Because if we looked in that mirror, we might see ourselves. We don't want to look in the mirror of selective outrage. It's easier for us to point the finger at somebody else than it is to point it at us. Now we have this situation where we have Kalen and we have Reese. We have this situation where everybody's outraged. We have the great divide now. We are creating another divide. The black and the white conversation, the race conversation, selective outrage. I want to ask us tonight, how many of us support women sports? How many of us actually support women basketball? Me included. I'm here covering Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes football team. The Colorado Buffaloes also had a winning season in their women's sports. I believe they went to the Sweet 16. This is a big deal. Women's sports. The Colorado women's basketball. Colorado played Iowa, the same Iowa team that I'm talking about, where Kalen plays for. Colorado played that team on March the 24th. The score was 77-87. I do not know how many of us covered that game. How many of us creators support women's sports, let alone support the Colorado women's basketball team that went to the Sweet 16? And this is a big deal. Basketball, Sweet 16, March Madness, big deal. Of all of the creators that covers Coach Prime, I know that there are a few that cover the women's basketball, that cover women's sports from Colorado, but I did not see too many thumbnails covering the women's basketball from creators who cover Coach Prime and cover the football team. I didn't see too many thumbnails coming across. But the question is, how many of us actually support women's sports? That's us as creators. How many of us cover the women's sports from Colorado since Coach Prime arrived? This question is just for us creators now. How many of us did that? I know that some people did. This is not for everybody, because I know that some people are going to say, well, this person did it, that person did it. I know there was a handful of people that did it. A whole lot of us were still covering Coach Prime doing the Sweet 16. And not just us creators. Everybody's making a video now covering this situation. We are reactive people, because a lot of us, we don't support these young ladies. When these young ladies are having their season, we don't go out, we don't make a video interviewing these young ladies. We don't interview these young ladies, try to figure out how you guys doing, what's going on with your sport, where you from, like we do with the men's sports. We create all these videos. Right now, I'm just talking to creators. General population, I'll come to us later. But none of us will take our cameras and go support these young women during the regular season. When they're going through their day, when they're going through their times, we will not stay by the locker rooms looking for interviews. We will reach out to them on social media and say, hey, can I get an interview? We don't know if they will say yes, just like anything else. You know, they have the right to say yes or no. Nobody owes anybody anything. But how many of us actually made the effort to make content based on these women's sports, based on the women? We're talking about Kaylin and we're talking about Reese. So let's just say women basketball. How many of us actually during the preseason? Right now we're talking about preseason men's football. How many of us during the preseason actually went and interviewed these young women? A lot of us did not do that. I can't do a blanket statement because I know that there are some people out there that commit their channels to covering women's sports. Please save your comments with telling me who does this and who does that. I'm talking about a lot of us, the general population, the general idea of the creator. I didn't see that many thumbnails with the women basketball. Yes, there are YouTube channels dedicated to women basketball, but for a lot of us, we don't support women's sports. The women basketball needed this controversy. They needed some kind of spark for people to pay attention, because we have selective outrage. A lot of us are not going to respond or do anything until there's some type of controversy. Then we will put an eye on it. Then we will say something. We are more reactionary than we are proactive. We only react to things. There are little pockets and groups of people that are fighting the fight. There's a small group of creators fighting the good fight. Most things always start with small groups until something major happens. Then a lot of us, boom, we start bum rushing, looking for position, jousting for position. Then we start reacting. How can I benefit from this? A lot of us don't like to look in that mirror, including myself. I'm not righteous. I have no righteous foot to stand on when it comes to this topic. I'm just like you. I'm talking about us tonight. I'm not here waxing poetic about how much better I am than anybody else that's watching me. I am no better, because when these young women were going through playing some great basketball, I did not make one video covering them. I am no better than anybody else out there. I'm laying it out for us to see as a group. I'm writing in the sand to let us know we need to be very careful on how we approach this. A lot of us are mad at the media coverage talking about people calling Reese thug, all kinds of derogatory terms, but then praising Kaylin. But how many of us were willing to cover Reese while she was playing, to tell her story, to introduce her to the world, to say, hey world, this is Reese, because she was out there on her own, creating her own story on her social media platforms, doing her little dances. She's out there doing her thing, doing the best that she could. How many media companies were actually helping to tell her story? How many of us were willing to introduce her to the world, the rest of the world, so that when it came time for them to start writing and saying these things about her, they would already know her, and some of the words that they're levying against her, it will not even apply, because they already know her, because they know this is how she is. The same way that we do Coach Prime. How we highlight Coach Prime, let you know that he's a man of God. This is his character. So some of the things that people are going to say, it's very hard for them to say those things, because we highlight Coach Prime and these young men so much that it's hard for you to not understand who they are and how they move, so that some of the words that you're going to use, if you use it, it makes you look silly because you know them. We do so many videos about Coach Prime and these young men that it's very hard for you not to know their character already, that you would not levy certain words against them. We're telling our own stories. We're telling the men's stories, but who's telling the young women's story? How many channels are out here telling the young women's story? Not that many. I will tell you one channel in this space that done that, and was Her Ticket Sports. I remember one of my club members writing on Her Ticket Sports and saying, I'm so glad that you're covering these women's sports. I was waiting to see who would cover the women first, but you did it. And guess what? It's a female that did it. A female covering Coach Prime and the Buffaloes, Her Ticket Sports, actually covered the women. When Deion Sanders' daughter got accepted to the university and got on the team, a few people covered that. But that's as far as it went for certain creators because there was interest there. So they covered that. They whispered a few words. After that, it was back on to Coach Prime and the men. A lot of us don't cover women's sports, and a lot of us don't support women's sports. Nobody's telling the stories. There's no media. Let me just say the words. There's no black media that's covering these women, these young black women in sports. There's not a lot of us supporting these young black girls when they play sports. Nobody's covering them. So nobody really knows them. When they get on these big stage and the other type of media get to know them and they don't really understand them because nobody's been covering them. They don't really know their personalities. They don't really know how they are. They don't know anything about these girls. They just see them doing stuff that they're not used to. And guess what? They start calling them nappy-headed, blah, blah, blah. Thugs, gangsters, disgraceful. And then what the Barstools guy said, classless blank. Start levying words against them. Our media companies, myself included, I'm not exempt from this. I'm not standing on no righteous soapbox tonight. Now, I got to start doing it, of course, but my media company, I'm not going out there covering women's sports. I'm not doing that. I'm not telling the stories of these young black women. I'm not telling the stories of any women. Forget about color. I'm not telling the stories of any women. Whenever there's controversy, then we're ready to cover them. But prior to any type of controversy or prior to any type of big stage, nobody covers these young women. There's no support for women's sports. That's why when they get to the professional level, it's hard. They have to go to court just to get equal footing. The women's soccer team had to spend years in court just to get paid correctly. WNBA is struggling trying to get paid correctly. We don't give the same type of energy that we give these men. We don't give that same kind of energy. So all of us, nobody, any of us, nobody's righteous. But here we are again. We're reacting now to a situation. If I was to just pivot a little bit to general population, when we do cover these girls, when we do make the videos for these girls, nobody wants to watch these videos. These videos don't get that much views. When you go to the channel that cover the girls' sports, unless they're doing something spectacular, unless they're already a bigger channel, a small channel like myself, if we cover the women's sports, we don't get the views. And then for those of you who are going to start the argument of why don't you just do it for the love of it, I need you to go to work today and tell your boss you're not going to accept the check this Friday or you're not going to take the check for this month because you're doing it for the love of it. Let's be fair, because that's what a lot of people want to levy on creators. A lot of people on social media who consume social media products, they don't look at creators as creators working. They just look at creators as you just doing this thing. Nobody looks at creators as something serious. The only time you take it serious is Mr. Beast does something, or these bigger creators, these bigger channels, when they tell you that this is how much money they're making. But nobody really takes the creator universe or the creator space. General population does not take that seriously yet. When you see your favorite creator, a lot of people like to think that creators are just doing them a favor. If I go to Best Buy and I try to purchase something, I'm not telling the person that's in that blue uniform, hey, you should be doing this for the love of showing me electronics. If I see a lawyer, I'm not going to tell the lawyer, you should just love helping people. Why are you trying to charge me a retainer? You should just do this because you just love to help people get out of legal situations. Me as a filmmaker, I have lawyer friends. When one of my friends know that I'm a filmmaker, you know what they do? They say, hey, yo, Harry B, can you come and film my wedding? Or, hey, Harry B, yo, can you film this event I'm having? Can you bring your cameras and just film it? When I ask them, hey, listen, I got a situation. I need a lawyer's advice. The first thing they'll tell me is, hey, I got a discount for you. They say, oh, no doubt, man. You know I got you, man. I'm your boy. I'll definitely give you that family discount. When it comes to me actually being a filmmaker, they want me to do their wedding or their event for free. Like, I don't do weddings. I told you I'm a director. I don't do weddings. They get upset like, yeah, you're a director, but you know how to do a camera. So why don't you just do my wedding? I'm a director. I don't shoot weddings, bruh. What I do for a living to make room for my family, to put food on the table for my family, is diminished and is looked down upon because the general population does not see it as a credible line of profession. When people approach YouTubers, you should be doing it for the love of it. You're just doing it for the money. You're just in it for the money. If somebody was to come over to you and say, hey, why are you at work? And they say, why are you doing this? You should just be happy doing what you're doing. Why are you doing it for the money? I should just be happy doing a YouTube video, giving information, spending hours and hours editing. I should just be happy doing it and not worry about the money. I should never tell you, click on this link to buy Dion merch. I should never intro the video and do a little bit of business because I'm wasting your time. Get straight to the information. You're talking too much. I don't care about your Coach Prime link. Just give me the information. You should be doing this for the love of it. Stop trying to sell me stuff. I don't care about none of that stuff. Us as creators, we're just like TV stations. We're just like TV channels. We put out a product which is based on ratings, also known as views, clicks, responses. Anything that has low ratings, we're going to either pivot from or we're not going to do anymore. We're only going to do the things that has the highest ratings because that's how we're able to promote the entire channel. That's how we're able to eat at the end of the day. Just to put it in layman's terms. Without the high ratings or without ratings, we don't eat. So when we do women's sports, when they're only getting like maybe 100 views, 200 views here and there, that sends a message to the algorithm. Let me explain to you how the algorithm works because we have selective outrage. You have to understand how this stuff works. Within the first 30 minutes of me uploading a video, the algorithm starts to scan my video. The algorithm starts to keep track of my analytics. How many people clicked on my video within the first 30 minutes? And if they clicked on the video, how long did they stay watching that video? If a higher percentage of people clicked on my video within the first 30 minutes, the algorithm goes out and starts to share the video to a certain percentage of people. So let's just say within the first 30 minutes of me uploading a video, 500 people clicked on the video. That sends a message to the algorithm that says people are interested. Let's share it with 1,000 people. But then within that 500 people that clicked on that video, it's going to extrapolate another set of data. Out of those 500 people, it says how long did these people watch the video? What percentage of people watched the video past 1 minute, past 2 minutes? When did this start dropping off? That's called retention. That retention is how you sell advertisement. The channel that has the higher retention rate are going to get more advertising dollars. Most advertisers are looking for the 90 percentile retention rate. If you put out a video, a 10-minute video for women's sports, within that first 30 minutes, you only get like 50 people clicking on that video. The algorithm is going to say people are not interested in this video. We're not going to share with any more people. What happens with that video? It gets put in the dungeon. The algorithm wants to hide that video from anybody else seeing that video because of retention. Advertisers pay big dollars for retention. These platforms are set up for retention. The longer you stay on their platforms, the better it is for them to make more money. All of them are here to make money, and that's it. Nobody ever accuses the platforms for making their money. The accused are always going to be the creators. Just like the NBA, just like professional sports. Nobody ever goes to the owners and complain about how they do their business. It's always the players that gets the heat when they move from team to team. That's a whole nother conversation. All of these platforms are set up. What you're watching this video on right now is set up to make money, and that's it. That's all they're in it for. They're not your friend. They don't care. They're only in it to make money. That's it. And the way they make money is to keep you here watching this video here. Let me repeat that so y'all can understand. Retention. They are in competition with other platforms. They have to try to keep you here on their app. So if I made a video within the first 30 minutes and it only got 50 views or 80 views or maybe 100 views, the algorithm says nobody's interested in this video. Let's hide it. Let's take it out of the way. The message that sends is if they came on my app, if they left another platform and came on this platform, and if I was showing them bad videos that they're not interested in, they're going to be disinterested and they're going to click off their app and go to another app where the fun is at. All of them are playing the same game. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where I primarily do my business now. I don't mess with anybody else. I'm only on YouTube now. Their job is to keep you on their app for as long as possible. So they're only interested in you making content that people want to watch. Like right now, I'm not talking about Coach Prime directly. I'm going to reference him in this video, but this video's title is not going to be Coach Prime. So my audience, the people that come and watch me for the most part, are not going to be interested in hearing from me about this topic because that's not what I talk about. Most of my audience or most of the people that watch me are not going to be interested. They're going to be disinterested. They're like, I don't want to hear about that. I don't care what he has to say about that. That's not what he does. I don't really care about his perspective on that. Let me know when you put up a Coach Prime video and I'll come back to you. That's the nature of the game. I'm not mad at anybody for thinking that. If I have a content creator that creates car videos and all of a sudden they're talking about racial discrimination, I'm not going to be interested on clicking on that. I will go to the channel that's used to talking about racial discrimination because I know their point of view I'm going to be interested in. I will go to a Roland Martin to talk about racial discrimination more than I will go to a channel that talks about cars. That's just the nature of media. That's how it works. So I can't be mad at anybody for that. But this is how the algorithm works. Nobody's really interested in women's sports. So when we do the videos and you don't watch it, the algorithm is going to hide that video and says, if you keep doing videos like this, you're not going to be one of our favorite creators and we're not going to recommend your videos to nobody. You keep making this kind of content, we're going to hide your channel. You're not going to be able to get in front of our audience because you're making bad videos. Nobody's interested. If you don't click, you don't watch, you don't respond. If you click on it, you leave after 2 seconds, the algorithm algorithm is not going to be on our side. We need the algorithm to be on our side for the success of our channels. So we can be danged if we do, and we can be danged if we don't. It's not that we don't want to create the content, but we need you guys to watch the content. Another example is black movies, black television shows. We're talking about wholesome media. A lot of people always complain about not having enough wholesome family content. It's not that there are not filmmakers out there that want to create those content. There are a lot of creators, a lot of writers that want to create these content, but nobody supports these content. Nobody ever supports the good stuff. We want the bad stuff, the raunchy stuff. Every year there are these sweepstakes where a lot of content, TV shows and all kinds of content are purchased through these Hollywood sweepstakes. They'll test it with a market and they'll say, okay, we'll buy X amount of episodes. They'll put it out there. Guess what? The community don't respond to it. There's nothing we can do. We're in this business to make money. We're not here to be Captain Save the Hood or Captain Save the Culture. It's very hard for one person trying to feed their family to save a culture. It's very hard for one guy, one person to save a culture. It takes the entire body of the culture to say, hey, we want this thing. We have selective outrage. If we all say we're going to support this content and people start supporting that movie or that TV show, then guess what? The TV show will get on the air, it'll get advertising dollars, and that's how it stays on the air. But if nobody tunes into it, nobody wants to watch it, it's gonna go off the air. If you wanna know why we don't have enough black content, why we don't have enough wholesome black content, it's not because nobody's interested in making them, it's because we as a collective are not interested in watching them. And you can tell by what's on TV. Selective outrage. You wanna know what we respond to, look at what's out there. We only react to things. Instead of us creating content and putting these girls out there, interviewing them, introducing Reese, introducing Kaylin, introducing these women and saying, these are young women doing their thing, get to know them, get to know their personality. We don't do that, but then when they do something, then we react. Now here we are reacting. So if you wouldn't watch the content, that does not give me an incentive to make the content because I cannot be Captain Save the Culture. One person cannot save the culture because people want to cast judgment and they want to say, oh, you're just doing it for this. Oh, you're just doing it for that. Well, join the media. Get out there. Grab your phone. Grab your camera. Go interview someone. We're always waiting for Superman to make things happen. We criticize the people that are trying, but then when we don't have enough, we have that selective outrage. Chris Rock was telling us about us. We were not willing to listen to our portion of that comedy special. We only listened to the part where when he took the mirror off of us and he started pointing it onto Will, that's when we started making all of the videos. I didn't see anybody making any video about us having selective outrage. That comedy special was not just about Will Smith. We only chuckled a little bit when it was pointed to us. If I came on here and I said, women basketball sucks, don't nobody watch that. They can't dunk, they just run around doing a bunch of layups. I might as well go watch some kids play. I ain't got no time for no daggone women's sports. Women are only good for cooking in the kitchen. I ain't got time for them running around playing sports. Man, give me my sports. Matter of fact, I'm hungry. One of them, they don't gonna make me a sandwich. Stop playing with me. If I said that and I left it at that and I said, thank you for watching, have a great night. If I said that, you would be so outraged. You would have everything to say. You would have more to say. Oh my gosh. You would have all of the response. But the action that you show, the action that we show is exactly that. We don't watch it because we don't want to, because it's not interested to us. So as soon as somebody calls that out, then we become outraged. Your outrage would be up here if you heard that from somebody. You would get that person up out of here. But after that, they go right back to not watching them. You'll go right back to not caring about women's sports. Selective outrage. Reactive instead of being proactive. Proactive looks like taking your camera, starting your channel, starting to cover the women's sports. Preseason. Look at what the girls are doing. Oh my God, look at her handle. Hey, Kaylin, can I get an interview? Can I meet your dad? I saw a caption on the internet that said her dad actually was looking for a girls' league to put her in that was very competitive. He couldn't find one, so he put her in a guys' league and they won some AAU championship. If we were proactive, Mr. Kaylin's dad, as my kids would call him, Mr. Kaylin's dad would not have to do that if we were proactive. Mr. Kaylin's dad would not have to go find a boys' league to put his little girl in if we were proactive. She got her competitive edge from playing with guys. That energy that she got, that's a guy energy. She got that competitive edge from playing with guys. I've seen one of the highlights where she won at the end of the game. She about to lift her daggone shirt up. She forgot she was a daggone girl. She forgot for a second that she was a girl. She about to lift her shirt up. And I'm like, oh Lord, that's what guys do. We take our shirt off. That energy is a guy energy. If it's true that she played with guys growing up and that's where she get her competitive edge from, then we're reacting, not being proactive. Why aren't there more girls leagues? It's not like girls are not out here who want to play sports. Girls want to play sports. But some of us, we protect them so much, we don't even want them to try. We would not put our girls in certain leagues. We'll tell the young boys, let me go put you in basketball. We won't tell the young girls the same thing. We rather react than be proactive. When it comes to Coach Prime, HBCUs were around before Coach Prime came on the scene. Donald Trump, on paper, he's a billionaire. Calls himself a billionaire. He says he's a billionaire. He's made $7 million from poor people, sending him money for his legal actions, for his legal woes that's going on in the media right now. Poor people give him $7 million of their money. You can't tell me that poor people don't have money. Poor people have money. $7 million to a billionaire to pay for legal stuff? Why would a billionaire need $7 million? That's a whole nother video. But I'm just saying, poor people have money. There's a lot more of us. Without us, the economy would crash. Without the middle class, without poor people, without the Best Buy employees, without the McDonald's employees, without the KFC employees, without the regular guy, the you and me, without us, the economy would crash. So we got money as a collective. You can send $1, I can send $1. So if enough of us send $1, we can give Donald Trump $7 million, even though he's a billionaire. So he has $7 million to fight all his legal issues from poor people. I say that to say this. Coach Prime is 55 years old. HBCUs have been around way longer than Coach Prime. We're talking about selective outrage. If you and I cared so much about HBCUs' health and well-being, having something of our own, historically black colleges and universities, if we care so much about historically black colleges and universities, each one of us working our KFC jobs, working our electronics jobs, working at the bank as a bank teller, each one of us could send $5, $10, $20, pool that together in a community chest to make sure that HBCUs don't have to face the kind of financial woes that they face every single year. And we wouldn't have any issues. We wouldn't have to wait for Superman. All of us as a collective could do something. Or better yet, the ones who were so outraged could have done that so that we didn't have to wait for Coach Prime to save us. But we didn't do that though. The amount of people who were outraged, if you were to poll them, you're outraged. Let me find out how much money you gave to HBCUs over the past 5 years or last year. What percentage of those people who were mad have ever sent $1 to HBCUs? It would be a very small percentage. Please save your comment for that. I'm not talking about you 1% or 2%. Like, you don't have to go to the comment and tell me, oh, I've sent money to HBCU. This is not about you. We're always trying to make things about ourselves. It's not about you. It's about us as a collective. We can pull our money or we can support black media, actually go out there and tell our stories so that when it comes time, when we're on big platforms like the one that Reese is on, black media has already been covering our athletes. But instead of us doing that, we rather talk about the people that are trying. Anybody that steps foot here, we're going to talk down on them. We're not going to support them. We're not going to click subscribe. We're not going to subscribe to these channels. Why should I subscribe to your channel? I don't even like the way you look. Here you go again talking. Why should I subscribe to your channel? What have you done for me? The channels are here. You're watching one of them, but you haven't clicked the subscribe button because you feel like I need to do something for you in order for you to subscribe to me or for you to support my channel. I'm not saying just subscribe to me because I'm black. I'm saying because you've consumed 2 or 3 of my videos and you haven't clicked that subscribe button. Selective outrage. So you don't want to support the thing, but you want the thing to be vibrant. You don't want to support the media, the black media, so that we can make these videos to support these young people, but you want the channels to be successful and still support these young women. Selective outrage. Reactionary versus being proactive. I'm not suggesting just support anything black. I'm just saying, how many of my videos have you seen? Because this is what I'm talking about. If I'm not successful on YouTube, if nobody's watching the videos, the algorithm is not going to share the video. As a matter of fact, they will hide my channel if nobody's watching my videos. But some of us will say, well, I don't really like him, but I'm just going to watch his videos. I'm not going to subscribe. I'm just going to watch his videos. But yet we want it to happen. We're not going to support HBCUs. We're only going to get mad when somebody doesn't step up and do something. Somebody should do something. We have a Superman paradox. We are so stuck on waiting for Superman to do something that we cripple our own communities. We want somebody to put in the work hard, do all the work. You do what it takes for you to get to that place. And then when you get there, I'm going to talk down on you. I'm going to not support you. I would talk trash about you. I would talk dirty about you. I don't care about you. But when you do make it, people start to give you praise, and then something happens and controversy comes up, then I will have something to say about you. Oh, I didn't like him anyway. So we have to be introspective. We have to look at ourselves and start understanding what's going on here. How can I hold myself accountable for this situation? So whenever a situation happens, the first thing I want us to do is to look in the mirror and say, what part did I play in this situation? We can seek solutions, because I can come on here and start screaming like as if I'm more righteous than anybody else, but I'm not, because I choose what I want to watch. I choose what I want to support. There are certain things that don't meet my moral code, so I don't support it. Things that I'm not going to put my energy on. But if I'm not going to put my energy or my support behind something, and when something happens, then I need to reserve my comments. I don't have a moral ground to stand on here. I need to just stay out of the conversation and let the people who have some kind of say something. And for the most part, a lot of those people probably don't care anyways, because they're in it. They already know how it is. It's usually the outsiders that have a lot more to say about that thing than the people that are actually in it. The women are probably celebrating right now that a lot of people have attention. A lot of people have more to say. But behind closed doors, they're probably having conversations and be like, what are all of these Jezebels? Who are all of these Johnny-come-latelys? We had a whole season and nobody made a video about us. Now everybody's making a video because of some controversy on the court. Selective outrage. Nobody has a moral ground to stand on here. The line is drawn in the sand. The people who need to be talking, the people who need to care more probably don't care as much as you think. We need to support women's sports a lot more than we do. We need to turn that mirror around, because our selective outrage is crippling our communities. It's not helpful to any of us. The time I spent on this video, if this video gets no views, nobody wants to watch this video, I just took an L. The algorithm is going to respond, and I'm taking a chance on just talking about this. These are the things that nobody cares about. Nobody cares that you're taking a chance. You're just on YouTube. Nobody cares, bruh. You're just on YouTube. It's not like you're on ESPN somewhere. Nobody cares. That's that thing. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody cares because it's not a traditional employment route. Until it becomes a traditional employment route that people respond to, you're just a YouTube creator. Nobody cares. Anybody can make a YouTube video. Until we get to that point where we understand this is important. The platforms are the discussion leaders. Respect black media, support black media, the good ones. We never really created any type of storylines for these young women. So the people that are responding to them gave them a storyline. And now we're reacting to the storyline that's out there that we never created. And now we're outraged. That, my friend, is called selective outrage. And we need to be careful. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Sports Nation, I'm Harry B. And that was the Liberian Perspective. TLP Sports Club.